This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor Jon Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
And I'm Heather Branch here with Jon to talk about ways to help you better prepare for your financial future. RetirementSolutionRadio.com is where you can go to begin your own conversation with Jon and his team at J. Hagan Capital. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there or, again, find us anytime at RetirementSolutionRadio.com. Okay, so it's the time of year when everybody is out shopping for everything, not just food, but for presents.
It's the most
decorations,
wonderful time of year.
I have spent so much money in the month of October, even leading up to the holidays. I'm not ready for... Can we postpone the holidays for a little while?
I know. My credit card, I thought was going to burst into flames.
Well,
I did.
It's not your
Amazon
fault.
Amazon was like, we have attempted to charge this card 843 times this month. Sir, do we need to call anyone for you?
Do you need help?
You need, what was it?
Intervention.
It's like, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's not even me. My wife uses the account in the card. The kids use the account in the card. I'm like, what did we just get in the mail today? A stuffed pig?
Sure.
It's the size of a small elephant?
Obviously.
What is this for?
She needed it.
Come now, Jon. What are you talking about?
Well, the real truth is it's not entirely your girl's fault or any of our faults, because everything is so, I feel like we talk about this every week lately. Just the prices, they don't seem to be coming down despite the numbers that we're seeing. We recently got updated inflation numbers, which came in a little bit lower than expected. October's consumer price index was 3.2% year over year, and that's down from September's 3.7%.
Yeah. That's lower than it's been in a long time.
And that has mostly to do with gas prices, apparently, lower gas prices. The core CPI, which that excludes food and energy prices, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that dropped 1/10 to 4% flat. These numbers are, however, still higher than the Fed wants them to be. They keep looking at that 2% goal. Meanwhile, we keep having to figure out, well, you, looking at you, Mr. Retirement Planner, Mr. Financial Advisor, it's up to you to help us figure out about increasing income in our retirement years to account for inflation. And I mean, right now, has the conversation around in that space been more relevant in the past 2 decades as it has been in the past 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, so when you're thinking about inflation, other than in the last 14 months, we almost had no inflation.
Right?
I mean, if you think about what were the banks paying us, like less than quarter of a percent a year, like nothing. We had super low interest rates, and we got used to that, right? I mean, I still know people. I mean, I used to be one of these wonderful people, and now I'm not, that had a 30-year mortgage locked in at 2.25%.
Yep.
And I know there's some of you guys out there. Let me tell you right now, I never give blanket advice. Please never pay that off. I mean, that is free money. That is free money. Of course, some people might choose to pay it off, but 2.25% is free money. Yeah. It's so absurd. So, but when you're looking at inflation, it is more important than ever to ensure that when you're developing your income plan for retirement, whether you're going to take the lump sum pension or you're going to let the company pay you, or when are you going to select Social Security, or all these things, you really need a plan for these increasing costs.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. So when you look at a 5% inflation rate, which we've been much higher than that of a lot since 2000.
Yep.
Much higher than that.
Yep.
But if you look at a 5% inflation rate, instead of $1, it will cost you $1.65 in 5 years. Yep. So think about it. So if you wanted to go buy, I don't know, take anything. Let's say that you needed a screen door for your house.
Yep.
And it was $1,000. 5 years from now, it's going to cost you $1,650 for that same screen door in that example. That is crazy. I mean, I was looking the other day and someone said, "Hey, Jon, did you see the Coca-Cola was on sale at Kroger?" I was like, what? What are you talking about?
What was it on sale for?
So it was on sale for $5.99 for a 12-pack. $5.99.
That's the sale price.
That was the sale price, because I was looking at it. Right now I'm looking at, because I had to pull it up, because I thought I had a dream about it. I'm like, this is a nightmare. I'm never going to be able to buy cola again.
I know, right?
This is bad. No, yeah, but so I'm looking at it right now. The average price is $8.99 for a sleeve of name brand soda, right? And you just look at that. It's like, that is highway robbery. I remember when it was basically $2.50.
Yeah.
Four of those things would be like $10.
Right. You get 4 for 10. Yeah.
And that wasn't that long ago, right? That wasn't that long ago, but that is inflation. So we're looking at getting on, especially when we're thinking about retirement, right? A fixed income. And that word, that phrase in and of itself just always makes me just feel a little icky.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so terrible, doesn't it? It sounds so terrible to say, okay, honey, we're going to do this. We're going to pull the ripcord. We're going to be done. We can live off exactly $3,219.04 a month. And it can never go up because that's the way that we did this. Think about how horribly depressing that is, right? So if we have the opportunity to build a retirement plan that can increase with inflation, well, then by all means, guys, we have to do that. There are so many ways today. I mean, and really, these are things that they've been around forever. They weren't very good until about 14 months ago when rates started moving up. There are so many ways that we can protect our downside, potentially increase our income, and have it potentially offset inflation. There's so many things that now exist. And it's not based on investments, right? It's based on how do we put our money in different buckets, if you will.
Well, let me jump in because that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because I think that for a lot of people, they think growth, they think the market, right? They think investments. So that's what I wanted to ask you about, the idea of how do we siphon that to have tolerable risk levels. Ron Barron, he's of Barron's magazine. He was talking about
Barron?
this.
The Robert Barron?
Ron Barron.
Ron Burgundy. No, Ron Barron. Gotcha.
Barron's magazine. He was recently talking about this and how he himself, to the point you were just making, he is looking to the stock market for that growth.
Everything doubles in price every 14 or 15 years. And the way you can hedge against that is you can invest in the market, which goes up about 10% a year. So the way I think about it is the investments that I have are investments for the long term in businesses where I think we're going to double our money. Instead of in 10 years, we're going to try to double our money every 5 years.
Well, wouldn't that be lovely if it was just so simple?
Oh, absolutely.
But to get to the point you were just making, that comes with its own level of risk. It seems like there's risk surrounding us at every door we open, John. So how do we work to, again, like I was saying, break that down and create tolerable levels for ourselves?
Yeah. So one of the things that Ron just said, I thought it was pretty good, and he's exactly right. Historically, over time, the U.S. equity markets typically move up, right? It doesn't go up every time you want it to, though, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes you kind of need to do something with your money, and that conveniently is when the market bottoms out.
That's
you lose like 20% of it
Murphy's
like last
Law.
year. Oh, yeah, it's just how it goes. So it's very important, though, to understand he is accurate. You absolutely can earn 10 to 15% in the market in some stretches of time. There's other stretches of time, and we can think about it. It's in most all of our lifetimes between 1999 and 2009. And there's a decade right there. The market actually didn't make a penny. As a matter of fact, it actually lost a ton of money, and then barely at the end of 10 years, only averaged a loss of about 1% a year over that decade. And think about it. Why on earth did that happen? Well, the dot-com boom went all the way up in 1999, but then what happened? Well, 2000, 2001, 2002. Those 3 years wiped about 50% off of most people's S&P 500 holdings, right? No matter what you owned. And if you owned NASDAQ stuff back then, which was like technology, you were down like 70-something%. As a matter of fact, it took from 2002 at the bottom of the market, it took all the way until 2017 for the NASDAQ to get back to where it was in 2000. Guys, that's 17 years. 17 years. So over time, though, is Ron correct? It is. But let's think about this. What we have to understand is what portion of our money do we need to be aggressive with or need to be growth oriented with? And what portion of our money do we need to derive an income, right? Pretty simple stuff, because the one thing I've learned in 24 years of studying distribution economics, you cannot put the stress on your portfolio of having something create an income for you, have some form or semblance of safety, and also grow. It is too much. It will cause the portfolio to potentially collapse.
Got it.
And so what we have to understand is there is some portion of our money, and let's use a rule of thumb that people use.
Okay.
Whatever your age is, let's say you're 60.
Okay.
Well, that means that 60% of your money you probably need to put in a place that you can't lose it. And that portion is what you can use to create your income stream. If you're 70% should probably, it's just a rule of thumb, everyone's going to be different, but 70% then in that case would need to be safer, where you can't lose it, because there's less time that we have to get it back. People wouldn't have 17 years from the dot-com bust for the NASDAQ to get back, right? Because we might need to use that money to live off of. right? Or to pay for the mortgage at that 2.25% awesome interest rate that I still want you to keep, even if you're 70, as long as you have other income coming in to pay that thing off, right? So those are very important things to understand. Now, the other portion that could be at risk, you can choose as much risk as you want. You can invest in United States equities. You could invest in hedge funds. You could invest in technology companies like NVIDIA that's creating artificial intelligence, or Microsoft or Amazon or any of these great companies, but you cannot rely on them to also send you an income. So one of the things we all have to understand, because every one of us are in the same boat, if we one day want to retire, there's a portion of our portfolio that we really need to designate is the income portion. Now notice, do I care what products go in that? Not really. I just need to make sure we can't lose it, right?
Got it.
So you can use banks to help you with this, using structured notes or market-linked CDs. Ooh, those have gotten kind of good recently. You can use principal-protected notes. You can use guaranteed accounts. You can use demand deposit accounts. Heck, our money market in our firm's paying over 5.4% right now. That's pretty good, and that's safe, right? And that's perfectly fine. You can also use insurance companies. In insurance companies, you can use guaranteed contracts. You can use contractual policies where they're just going to pay you a certain amount. You could use annuities. I don't care. It's all fine. You can use trust companies too. All of those things are things that we typically in our firm lump on the safe side. And some of those things right now, Heather, you can get between 6 and 10% with no market risk whatsoever.
Right.
Some of it's even FDIC insured.
Right.
It really is. It's really kind of cool because rates have come up so much. Now, the other portion of our money, that's where we typically are talking about the stock market or the equities market or oil or precious metals or gas or take your pick. Any of those things, real estate even, those go on the risk side of the portfolio. What I typically see, though, is that most people kind of lump it all together.
Got it.
It's like, well, John, I'm just going to get a balance fund. Well, that means that you're being purposefully mediocre with the investment. It means that you're not being efficient. You are diluting your portfolio purposefully. Why on earth would you do that? That sounds terrible to me because you're not getting the best interest rates on the safe side and you're not getting the best growth on the growth side. It's perfectly inefficient, which makes it at best mediocre. And sometimes they're just flat out bad. Right?
Yeah.
So we have to understand if we're going to build a portfolio that can sustain, that can grow to keep up with inflation, just like Ron Barron was saying, but at the same time provide an income for us that we can't outlive, it's not based on a product. It's based on the process of getting our money in the right places so that they can work for us. But not any one investment is a unicorn or a silver bullet. It can't accomplish everything. We have to make sure that we know what that money is meant to do and make sure that it is perfectly efficient in accomplishing that goal. If we do that, you're going to have a long and happy retirement. But if we get it wrong, you're always going to be questioning, why didn't I listen to that buffoon? He actually told me this 22 years ago. Don't let that be you.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with Jon Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Inc. is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. It does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Jonathan Hicks, insurance license number 548962.